Jonathan, does art play a role in either triggering religious belief or sustaining religious belief? I mean, we see artistic expressions, hymns in churches, stained glass windows. What's the relationship between art and religious belief?
So, specifically within within a church or within a synagogue, within the practice of religious belief. I think one of the things that art does is enable a performance of one's theology. So one might interpret the whole liturgical movement of a church and the liturgical structure of the space, the building of the space, the building of the movements within the space, the building of what you see within that space. That all of that is theology. It's spatial theology, performative theology, embodied theology. So that on a weekly basis or daily basis or whatever, the congregation is coming together to perform their beliefs. And that not only makes it not just a matter of belief, propositions that one holds in one's head, but you think those beliefs with your body, so to speak, through the arts, whether that is liturgical performance or the structure of the space or whatever, and that produces a kind of maybe an enduring performance of belief through a community that is passed down through the words and also through the senses, the other senses.
Hymns in churches and chants, for example, in Eastern religions, have a repetitive catchiness to it. Some critics have called it like a mind virus, and you can't get it out of your mind. I've heard certain chants when I've looked at some Eastern religious cults, and I mean, it's a catchy thing. You can't get it out of your mind.
Yeah.
Is that part of the trick here? Or you're embedding something that sort of resonates with the human mind? People have discovered how to do that.
Yeah, probably. There's an aspect of that, sure. I think there's also an aspect that the aesthetic of the words you're singing is important. So so it becomes catchy, not just for the sake of being catchy, but because it organizes the words in a form that is meaningful, that says something in itself, that harmony or dissonance is a meaningful aspect of those words.
Many of the religious art has its own internal beauty. Do people see that beauty as a kind of a transportation to another realm? Is that part as well?
Yeah. You'll get different answers from different people about that. Some people, I think, will say that beauty is the experience of beauty is an experience of something beyond the form in front of you, right? That it is resonant in a way that it's resonating with something, the transcendent or something like that. Other people will say that the experience of beauty is a kind of partial glimpse or partial experience of wholeness, shalom, the whole world being set right. And that our experiences of this beautiful relationship is in some ways drawing us forward to with some kind of hope that the world be set right, or that the world should be right. So that there's some aspect of beauty that isn't just sacramental in the sense of resonating with the transcendent, but is kind of eschatological in the sense of being about things being set right.
Let me give you a counterfactual situation. and that is when Christianity began in the first century, an edict came down that the Christian churches could have no art, no music, no artistic representations of any kind. Do you think the development of churches and religious denominations would have been similar, or would have been severely changed without the art?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, certainly changed, certainly different. Yeah, and I mean, you can get examples from that within various iconoclastic movements within Christianity.
Okay.
Early Protestantism, actually, it's not just early Protestantism, but a removal of images, a leveling of previous artistic forms within the church.
And what happened?
In those instances, it puts much more emphasis on the words and on the text. So one of the reasons for destroying art in the early Reformation was that it had become, at least in their view, had become idolatrous and had started substituting for the text. And so the elimination of those things was experienced as liberating and
Back
renewing.
to the original faith.
Yeah, that's right.
Renewing,
That's right.
right.
And what develops then are other artistic forms for facilitating Protestant worship. It's still, there's still an artistic form. There's still a liturgy to those early Protestant
It just takes a different
sanctuaries.
form.
That's right.
And oftentimes when you have any kind of change, doesn't matter which direction you're going, it has a positive reinforcement because it affects people's attention. So people think that the change is more godly in this case, but in fact the change is good because it's just change alone. So if you change to more, or you change from more to less, the change process increases the devotion. But then over time it diminishes.
Yeah. I think that's often the case, and has to. Well, I mean, it's one of those kind of mysteries of human culture, that all things are received in a plurality of ways, right? So that early destruction of artwork was received by some in. Or maybe to use a different example, repetition of a chant, of a liturgy. Repetition can have the effect of emptying it of meaning, can have the effect of accumulating other meanings that weren't kind of originally intended, or can have the effect of actually sort of deepening in meaning with repetition.
Some would call that brainwashing.
Yeah, right. And in some cases was or could be brainwashing. Though in that instance, like we all, as groups of people, believe corporately in things, and that is, we work that out through repetition, whether that's through media repetition or artistic repetition. In other words, we're all living liturgies. There's no way outside of liturgies. We're just always having to reorganize them, redefine them so that they are meaningful, new.